the weight of June pressed heavily on me. A relentless cascade of deadlines and demands. As a manager at a small environmental consulting firm in Olympia, Washington, my days blurred into a frenzy of quarterly reports, client meetings, and budget reviews. My life became a cycle of early mornings and late nights, sustained by takeout and fleeting naps. My modest one-bedroom apartment on the third floor of an aging building was my sanctuary, chosen for its affordability as I saved for my dream home. The building was quiet, its residents private, and in nearly 4 years, nothing out of the ordinary had ever disrupted the stillness until that week. It began with something trivial, a half-empty milk carton in the fridge. Thursday night, bone-tired from a 14-hour workday, I opened the refrigerator door and frowned. Had I really poured that much milk for my cereal? I dismissed it as exhaustion clouding my memory, a common side effect of my grueling schedule. The mind plays tricks when you're stretched thin, and I was too drained to dwell on it. I shut the fridge and collapsed onto my bed, the unmade sheets a testament to my chaotic week. By Saturday morning, another anomaly caught my eye. I'm particular about my living room blinds, always tilting them downward at night to shield my privacy. But as I grabbed my keys to head out, I noticed the 3 blinds on the far right were angled upward just enough to offer a sliver of visibility from the street below. It was subtle, the kind of detail you'd miss if you weren't paying attention. I stood there, keys dangling in my hand, trying to recall if I'd adjusted them carelessly. Maybe I'd yanked them open too quickly the previous day. Shaking my head, I reset them and left, chalking it up to my scattered state of mind. Sunday offered a rare reprieve, a day to reclaim my space. I dove into a deep clean, vacuuming the worn carpet, scrubbing the kitchen counters, and changing the sheets that had become a makeshift desk for my laptop bag. The ritual was grounding, a reminder of normalcy. After a long, steaming shower that melted the week's tension, I felt human again. But as I reached for my toothbrush, a chill snaked down my spine. The bristles were wet, not just damp, but glistening, as if someone had used it moments ago. The bristles were splayed, bent outward in a way that suggested vigorous brushing, not the neat alignment I'd left that morning. I sniffed it cautiously. Mint, sharp and fresh. My stomach twisted. I lived alone. I set the toothbrush down, my hands trembling, and backed out of the bathroom. My apartment, once a haven, now felt like a puzzle with missing pieces. I checked every corner. Doors locked, windows secure. No signs of disturbance. The living room was untouched, and the kitchen counters gleamed from my cleaning spree. And yet, the toothbrush told a different story. Could I have brushed my teeth before my shower and forgotten? Stress could do that, couldn't it? But the certainty in my gut said otherwise. That night, sleep eluded me. I lay in bed, the darkness pressing in, replaying the week's oddities. The milk, the blinds, the toothbrush. Had someone been in my home while I was at work? Had I left a door unlocked? My mind spiraled to 3 weeks prior, when a maintenance worker had fixed a leak under my sink. He'd been in and out in 10 minutes, but I hadn't watched him closely. Could he have copied my key? The thought felt far-fetched, but what else explained the subtle intrusions? The next morning, I called the property manager. She confirmed no recent maintenance had been scheduled. My unease grew, a gnawing suspicion that someone was slipping into my apartment, not to steal, but to exist, quietly, in my absence. That afternoon, I bought a motion-activated security camera from Best Buy, a small device I mounted high on a hallway shelf. angled to capture the living room entrance. For 2 nights, the footage showed nothing but the stillness of my apartment. I began to question my instincts, wondering if I'd imagined it all. Then came Wednesday. A meeting ran late, and I dragged myself home near 11 p.m., too exhausted for my usual routine. I ate cold leftovers and checked the camera app before bed. My breath caught as the footage loaded. At 9:48 p.m., the motion sensor had triggered. A figure emerged from the floor vent crawl space in the hallway, a low door I'd rarely noticed. A man, short-haired and wearing a hoodie, slid out with practiced ease as if he'd done it countless times. He stood, stretched casually, and surveyed the room like it was his own. Then he walked into the bathroom. My heart pounded as I fast-forwarded. He emerged, brushing his teeth with my toothbrush, his movements unhurried. He glanced at the living room window, adjusted the blinds slightly, and slipped back into the crawl space, vanishing as silently as he'd appeared. I replayed the clip, my hands shaking, my ears ringing with the surreal horror of it. Someone had been living in my home, using my things, existing just out of sight. I called 911, my voice trembling as I explained. An officer arrived, watched the footage, and called for backup. They opened the crawl space, revealing a makeshift nest, a tattered blanket, a flashlight, a plastic bag with toiletries, my spare deodorant, toothpaste, a razor, and clothes I didn't recognize. The space was empty now, but the evidence was undeniable. Someone had been there, perhaps for weeks, sleeping mere feet from my bathroom. The landlord sealed the crawl space, and I upgraded my security, adding a second camera in my bedroom. I replaced the toothbrush, storing it in a bedroom drawer, and kept the bathroom door closed. But the violation lingered. Every time I brushed my teeth, I checked the mirror, half expecting to see a shadow behind me. The police speculated it was a homeless person seeking shelter, but no one was caught. I moved to a hotel for a few nights, unable to shake the feeling that he'd been watching me, perhaps even as I slept, unaware of the eyes in the dark. November in Albany, New York, brings a darkness that feels absolute. By 7:38 p.m., the world outside my 2-story townhouse was cloaked in inky blackness, the streetlights casting weak pools of light on the quiet cul-de-sac. As a web developer, I worked from home. My days spent hunched over code, hyper-aware of misaligned pixels and errant spacing. That attention to detail made me notice things others might overlook, a trait that sometimes bordered on paranoia. But that night, it wasn't paranoia. It was survival. The power cut out abruptly, plunging my home into darkness. I sighed, assuming the energy company had botched another winter grid. But as I glanced out the front window, I saw my neighbor's porch light glowing steadily, their TV flickering through the curtains. Every house on the block was lit except mine. A prickle of unease crept up my neck. I stepped onto the porch, the cold biting through my socks, and scanned the street. No downed wires, no flickering transformers. Just my house, singled out in the dark. Back inside, I grabbed a flashlight and descended into the basement, the air thick with the musty scent of concrete and old wood. The breaker box sat in the corner, its metal door cold under my fingers. I opened it and froze. The main switch was flipped off, not tripped, deliberately turned. My mind raced, searching for a rational explanation. Had I flipped it by mistake? Impossible. I'd been using power all evening, coding, charging my laptop, organizing tools on the dining table. I flicked the switch back on, and the house hummed to life. The fridge whirring, the dryer beeping, lights flickering on. But as I climbed the stairs, a new anomaly stopped me cold. The kitchen light was on. I turned it off before heading downstairs, my hand lingering on the switch as I grabbed the flashlight. And the tools on the dining table, my screwdriver, measuring tape, zip ties, and drill, were no longer where I'd left them. The screwdriver lay askew, the zip tie uncoiled, the drill's cord stretched taut, as if someone had handled it and set it back carelessly. My body went rigid, every nerve screaming that someone had been here, or still was. I checked the doors, front and back, both locked. Windows shut tight, no signs of forced entry. But the air felt charged, like the moment after someone leaves a room. I dialed 911, my voice low as I recounted the breaker, the light, the tools. The operator instructed me to lock myself in the upstairs bathroom, a windowless fortress with a single door. I sat there, clutching my phone, straining to hear any sound. A creak, a footstep, a breath. Silence pressed in, heavy and oppressive. When the police arrived, they searched every inch of the house, closets, attic, even under the furniture. They found nothing, but confirmed the breaker had been manually flipped. They suggested cameras, new locks, and vigilance, then left. The silence that followed was deafening. I installed security cameras, motion lights, and window alarms, but the unease lingered. Every night I checked the footage, unplugged tools, and double-locked doors. My home, once a refuge, now felt like a question mark, its shadows hiding answers I might never find. At 16, the prospect of a weekend alone in my parents' loch home was thrilling. No curfew, no chores, just me, a pizza, and the Xbox. Friday night was a teenage dream. Late-night gaming, horror movies, and a sugar-fueled haze. I crashed on the couch, the TV still flickering, drunk on the freedom of an empty house. Before bed, I locked every door, front, back, and the side entrance by the trash bins, adding a rubber wedge under the back door for good measure. I left a hallway light on and fell asleep, blissfully unaware. At 3:17 a.m., I jolted awake, my heart pounding. Something felt wrong, like the air had shifted. A faint flicker of light danced across my bedroom wall, the motion sensor outside. I checked my phone, squinting at the time, and waited. The light clicked off. Probably a raccoon, I told myself, but my body stayed tense. I crept to the window, peering through the blinds. The yard was still, the neighbor's patio empty, the trees motionless in the windless night. 15 minutes later, the light flashed again. This time I crouched low, angling the blinds to see without being seen. Nothing moved, but my skin prickled, a primal warning I couldn't shake. Then a soft knock echoed from downstairs. Deliberate, testing. I froze, my breath shallow. Another knock, slightly louder, came from the side door. No voice, no doorbell, just the quiet insistence of someone probing. The doorknob rattled, a slow, careful twist that sent my heart into my throat. I turned off the lights, grabbed my phone, and locked myself in my room, sliding a chair against the door. The motion light flickered again. From the window, I saw him, a figure pacing along the back fence, slow and methodical. He stopped, turned, and stared directly at my window, his gaze piercing the darkness. I dropped to the floor, clutching a baseball bat, and dialed 911. Whispering to the dispatcher, I described the figure, the knocks, the rattling knob. She kept me on the line, her voice a lifeline as I waited, every creak amplifying my fear. When the police arrived, their flashing lights painted the room red and blue. They searched the property, finding footprints circling the house, in flower beds, under windows, behind trash bins. Someone had been testing every entry point, methodical and patient. The police suggested he might have thought the house was empty, but his stare told a different story. He knew I was there. I didn't sleep that weekend, keeping every light on, a dresser blocking my door. My parents returned Sunday, and we installed cameras and sensors, but the memory of his gaze lingered, a shadow that still haunts my nights. My one-story bungalow in St. Paul, Minnesota was a haven of quiet. Its creaky floors and hissing radiators a comforting rhythm. As a remote worker, I knew every quirk of my home. The groan of settling wood, the fridge's hum, the faint buzz of electricity. My cat Laya was my only companion, her predictable habits a mirror to my own. But in August 2022, during a sweltering heat wave, that rhythm faltered. Laya began acting strangely, pawing at the floor vents with an eerie focus, her ears perked, her body tense. At first, I thought it was bugs, a common nuisance in an old house. But her behavior wasn't playful. It was vigilant. She abandoned her favorite spots on the windowsill and bed, instead curling up by the hallway vent near the bathroom, her eyes fixed on the slats. Then I heard it, a muffled shuffle, like something dragging beneath the floor. It came during quiet moments, while I cooked or joined Zoom calls, faint but persistent. I tried to dismiss it as the house settling, but Laya's intensity unnerved me. One night at 2:30 a.m., I woke to a sound that stopped me cold. A slow, deliberate exhale from the hallway vent, followed by a soft scrape. The air felt heavy, charged with an unseen presence. I grabbed a flashlight and crouched by the vent, shining the beam through the slats. Nothing but darkness. The next morning, I forced myself to check the crawl space, a cramped, humid void beneath the house. I moved storage bins from the hallway closet, unscrewed the access panel, and peered inside. The air was stale, thick with the scent of damp earth and decay. Crawling in, I swept the flashlight across the dirt floor, past pipes and tattered insulation. 10 feet in, I froze. A neatly folded blanket sat against the wall, beside a plastic bag containing empty food wrappers, a McDonald's bag, a water bottle, and a phone charger plugged into an extension cord that snaked into my home's wiring. My pulse thundered. Someone had been living here, under my floor, using my electricity, existing in my space. I backed out, locked the closet, and called the police. They found footprints, bare and shod, scattered across the crawl space, but no one was there. The intruder had likely slipped in during my brief errands, perhaps even before I'd moved in. I sealed the vents, installed cameras, and changed the locks, but the violation lingered. Laya returned to her sunny spots, but I couldn't shake the dread. Every creak, every shadow made me pause. I kept the TV on to drown out the silence, but the thought persisted. What if they hadn't left because I'd found them? What if they were waiting, hidden in a way I hadn't yet discovered? These stories linger because they expose the fragility of our sanctuaries. A home, meant to be safe, can become a stage for unseen intruders, their presence revealed only by the subtlest signs. A toothbrush, a flipped breaker, a footprint, a breath. Check your locks, trust your instincts, and never assume you're truly alone.